Hey, what's up, you guys? So we just wrapped up, UFC Austin. Such a crazy night of fights. I mean, the UFC delivered. We had that crazy fight between Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez, which I still have yet to watch, but from what I hear, it's absolutely insane. I've heard that, it looks like two plastic surgeons, going and fighting each other. We also did see the return of Ryan Garcia in boxing. But, I'm just going to stick to covering, this UFC event. And, oh, my God. Let's go to the main event real quick. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan looked amazing. Man, I 100% take back everything I said, in my breakdown video, which actually got copyrighted, man. I'm so sad. I worked so hard on that video. I'm going to go ahead and see if I could, trim out the pieces where I guess it was flagged. See if I could still re-upload it so you guys could see my takes beforehand. But I did say in that video that I feel like Arman's just going to get outschooled by Beneil in every aspect of the game. And, I mean, that wasn't the case at all. I mean, Beneil got flatlined, bro. It was really bad. I mean, back to back now, getting flatlined, by Arman. Arman did him worse, man. You can't argue that. Arman definitely did him worse than what Charles did, because with Charles, I mean, at least he was somewhat still there. Beneil wasn't even able to join, Arman when they were raising his hand, announcing him as the victor. He was still unconscious. And I mean, man, what a beautiful game plan by Arman, masking, a strike within another one. I think he was saying after that, he took a lot of what Charles did, throwing, the straight, going into the high kick. I mean, that's a combo that we've seen a lot recently. Guys like Whitaker, Leon Edwards have been able to perfect. And so with that, working on Beneil, Arman wanted to switch it up, which show him the knee, obviously you don't want to hit it and then go ahead and hit him with the straight. And while the shot didn't look hard, I mean, the placement on the chin, the trajectory, I just think all of it just accumulated and just put out, Beneil. And what was worse is that ground and pound, man. I did say it in my breakdown video that Arman has the most vicious ground and pound in the division. If that guy is on top of you, it is going to be a nightmare to get him off. But yeah, man, congratulations to Arman Tsarukyan for a beautiful game plan, him and his team. But man, what happens now? Because he just flatlined number 4. I don't think he jumps Dustin in the rankings. I think he might just be at number 4. But man, what happens now? I mean, because you got Charles, Gaethje in for a title shot. Do you do Dustin versus, Arman? I don't know. Or do you have Arman take another back step? Or I feel like maybe one of the most logical ones is doing Charles versus Arman, but only if, Charles loses to Islam. If that makes sense? Or maybe the loser of Islam versus Charles fights, Arman Tsarukyan. Nonetheless, though, I'm very excited to see who they match up with Tsarukyan next, because it is guaranteed to be a massive fight now. He is in the mix. And then, speaking of the lightweight division, we go to the co-main event, and man, as you can hear in my voice, dude, I'm heartbroken, man. I hate seeing Bobby Green like that. That is my guy. I was backing him to win this fight, but man, Jalen Turner just hits different type of hard, man. And what's crazy is I watched film on Jalen, before the fight, and I don't know why, but I just noticed that in the Dan Hooker fight, his shots, you could hear a different type of pop to them that you don't typically hear in most lightweights. I don't know if it's because of his length, his bone density or whatnot, but he cracks really hard, and you could hear that in the punches. And so I feel like definitely Bobby came in with the wrong game plan. I don't think he knew how to deal with that length, because whenever they would stand at distance, Bobby would kind of just lunge in. That was his way of shortening the distance instead of creating angles. Man, it was just, I don't think he came in with the right game plan. I don't know if that's how he would have fought Hooker as well, but it's definitely how he fought Jalen, and Jalen caught him right, on the temple, man, put him out. And then can we talk about that terrible stoppage from that ref? I mean, that ref has to be fined or spend some jail time, because oh my god, he tried to have Bobby murdered. I mean, the crazy thing is, he wobbled, Bobby Green. Once he got him to the ground, I mean, he was somewhat defending himself, but at that point it should have been stopped. And man, there was just 1 or 2 punches that got through that absolutely, just put him out. He just couldn't take those ones, and the ref let it go. I mean, man, a terrible stoppage, man. But, you know, man, definitely a sour feeling, you know, for fans of Bobby Green. I mean, he had such a fantastic year. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here, man. You know, I think he should take his time to come back. Maybe UFC 300, you know, maybe Paddy Pimblett. I think that does make sense. You know, maybe let him, you know, get his groove back on, make him, you know, build a little bit more momentum. It does ruin, you know, my hopes for, you know, a Dustin Poirier Bobby Green fight, man. I was saying it, if he got through Jalen Turner this weekend, I feel like that is the fight to make for UFC 300. But, you know, unfortunately, that's not what happened, man. But congrats to Jalen Turner. I mean, for him to take this on 9 days notice, you know, cut all the way down to 55, and he looked really good. You know, he looked really, really good in the octagon tonight. For him, you know, where do you guys, you know, who do you guys see him fighting next? I think if you're going to keep RDA in the rankings, like, have him defend a spot, man. I think you do Jalen versus RDA. I think that makes sense, you know? Then I'm just going to go ahead and cover, you know, the last two fights, which one of them being, you know, Figueiredo versus Font. You know, I find that first round, it was pretty slow and stale, but I think that's mainly because Figueiredo was getting in his stance, trying to, you know, get the distance right, because you got to realize, I mean, this is his first opponent inside the octagon, you know, in the last couple of years that's not named Brandon Moreno, you know, the first guy. So I think he was just trying to get, you know, the kind of the distance management, you know, and know when it's time to attack, you know, especially with Rob Font having such a long ass arm. I mean, that guy was going to pepper him with the jab. And, you know, he followed the game plan that, you know, I did say in my breakdown, which I thought he was going to take his time, you know, and eventually get a hold of Rob Font, probably hold him against the cage. And once he's inside, that's where he was going to do his work. Or whenever they would come together, he would just try to, you know, counter him with his shots, like go power for power. And it did not disappoint. You know, I did think the fight was going, you know, to not go to the distance, but nonetheless, I mean, still a really fun fight. And it shows Davison is a player now at 135. You know, where he goes from here, off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's very exciting, you know, whoever they're going to match him with, because he is now a bantamweight. You know, maybe you don't match Davison Figueiredo with this guy I'm going to mention if you want to, like, have him build momentum towards a title shot, but it is a fun fight, man, and it is definitely a fight that I know a lot of people would tune in to watch, and that's him and Petr Yan, you know, two former champions, two guys that were, you know, both champion in 2020. I think that'd be awesome. You know, Petr Yan, you know, he was supposed to fight Song Yadong. I think he got injured, you know, so he's going to be on the sidelines for a little bit longer, but not too much longer, you know. Once he comes back, I think Figueiredo will be there. Man, UFC 300, come on, let's do it. And then we get to my last one, which is Kelvin Gastelum versus Sean Brady. And man, oh man, what a disappointing performance. I don't put much of it on, you know, Kelvin Gastelum. I just think that Sean Brady, like, I think we all underestimated him after that Bilal loss. I think, you know, I'm going to even go out there and say, man, I think, like, we kind of, you know, treated him a little too harshly. You know, to be 100% honest, like, I was saying, like, I don't think the guy's like a D1 wrestler where he's going to get you down and, you know, hold you down. But, I mean, he did do it, man. Against a bigger Kelvin Gastelum coming down in weight, I mean, he took Kelvin fairly easily, you know, held him down. And man, you know, I guess the question is, how good is Bilal Muhammad? I'm not gonna lie though, I did think there were some spots where Kelvin should have, you know, emphasized a little bit more on the takedown and maybe, you know, throw some knees, give him the threat of an uppercut and just kind of risk it, you know, go in there and, you know, risk it for the biscuit, throw hands and, you know, get him off. Because here's the thing, bro, we know that Kelvin could bang, and I feel like almost all of us know that if he were to land like a really solid one on Sean Brady, it'd put him out. You know, welterweight is absolutely stacked. You know, there's a number of fights he could take, you know, but I would like to see one that does challenge his own style again. And I think right now, off the top of my head, one fight that is, you know, that we're going to see, you know, in Canada, you know, for January is Mike Malott versus Neil Magny. You know, Canada's biggest star right now, Mike Malott. And I do think he's going to get past Neil Magny. And I think that that is a great matchup, you know. Do Sean Brady versus, you know, Mike Malott later on, you know, in 2024. I think, you know, that's a great fight. Both guys' kind of styles are, you know, very similar. Mike is an exceptional grappler, and he's showing that on the feet he is a big threat too. So I think that'd be a really fun fight. And, you know, getting past Neil Magny, which is, you know, the ultimate gatekeeper of, you know, welterweight, you know, he's going to be putting some more high-profile fights after that. So let's do it, you know, him and Sean Brady. Another thing to mention is those 2 slam KOs. I mean, when does that happen? I mean, you know, the chances of that happening 2 times in one night is just absolutely insane. I think that is going to be something we're going to see a lot more now. Guys are going to be like, you know what? I get caught in an armbar, caught in a triangle. Let me just pick him up and dump him. You know, it's going to be like the new McGregor shoulder check, like the new calf kick. So I feel like I expect to see that a lot more. But yeah, overall, a really good card. I mean, we had some great comebacks, some really great fights, some good upsets, man. You know, gambling wise, I'd say it went fairly well. It didn't go too good as, you know, I predicted, but, you know, still nonetheless, it was an excellent card. I can't hate on it. And then now we go into next week, you know, Song Yadong versus Chris Gutierrez. You know, this card was supposed to be, you know, in China, now in the Apex. You know, make sure you guys keep an eye out because I will be dropping that breakdown video fairly soon, you know. And then we're on our road to UFC 296, you know, Colby and Leon, you know, 2 weeks away. So make sure to keep an eye out for that as well. Please, you guys, like the video, comment down below your favorite moment from UFC Austin. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.